The opinions and views expressed by guests on the Golden Nuggets Health and Wellness shows do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of the host or those of the station. Additionally, any medical advice shared by guests is not intended to replace the advice provided by your healthcare providers. It is important to exercise discretion and take responsibility for your own health choices. While the Golden Nuggets Health and Wellness shows aim to provide valuable information on holistic health for the mind, body, and soul, individual circumstances vary, and what works for one person may not be suitable for another. Viewers and listeners are strongly encouraged to consult with qualified healthcare professionals, nutritionists, or other relevant experts before making any significant changes to their lifestyle, diet, exercise routine, or adopting new practices discussed on the show. These professionals can offer personalized advice based on your specific needs and health status. The host, guests, and producers of the Golden Nuggets Health and Wellness shows disclaim any responsibility for consequences arising from the use or misuse of the information provided. By engaging with our content, you acknowledge that it is not a substitute for professional advice, and that you will seek guidance from qualified professionals as needed. Thank you for being a part of our health and wellness community.
Welcome to Golden Nuggets Health and Wellness Show, the television program that's redefining self-care for the mind, body, and soul. I'm Dr. Starr, licensed mental health counselor, health and wellness consultant, and your host for this show. Our mission is simple: to empower you with creative and innovative self-care strategies that help you prosper and be in good health even as your soul prospers. We're so excited that you have joined us for our third season, The True Meaning of Resilience, Turning Lemons into Lemonade. And throughout this season, we're not only identifying strategies for building resilience, but also we're sharing testimonies of resilience and its remarkable ability to transform lives. In each episode, our guests will share their lemons and share how they squeeze them into lemonade that's refreshing, inspiring, and impactful. I love what Elizabeth Kubler-Ross said. She said, "The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep, loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen." Isn't that a beautiful quote? And joining us today is one of those beautiful individuals in the person of William A. Taylor III. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
So glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
Well, tell us a little bit about you and what you do.
So I am currently the director of chaplaincy for the Indianapolis suburban region, which encompasses Tipton Hospital, Fishers, or they used to call it Saxony. It's Saxony Fishers, North Hospital, and I do administrative work in the Hospital of West Hospital.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here with us. And so we would like for you to tell us about your lemons and those struggles, those hard times, those bitter experiences. Would you mind sharing your story with us today?
Certainly. And we can all talk about lemons in our lives, but I can go back to my childhood. When I was growing up, my mother and father, they had a divorce, and it had a major impact upon my life. Not only that, but I began to act out in a variety of different ways. And rather than go into all the details, but one of the things that I remember is that I did not want to listen to my mother. I just could not hear what she had to say, which ensued me getting into trouble. And when I say in trouble, I got into trouble. I found the kind of guys that I could hang out with, and we stole cars, we snatched purses, we did all kinds of things because we consider that fun. But eventually it led me into juvenile detention. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. And I was dealing with so many different emotions, anger primarily, but also just rage that was on the inside. Everyone who would get around me, they would say, man, what's going on with you? And I couldn't articulate it like I can do today. But during that time period, you got my rage if you got in my presence. And I was willing to fight. I don't care how big you were, how small you were. I would fight you if you provoked me. But provocation was actually on the inside. I was being provoked by the things emotionally that I could not handle personally. And so through those experiences of just going through rocket experiences, I had some voices during those time periods who would always reach out to me, particularly my mother, particularly those persons in the institutions who would say, you know, man, why are you getting into trouble? We see so much potential in you. But I couldn't see it in myself. Wow. All I could see and experience at that time was my anger.
Wow. What a powerful story. And looking at you today, I could not imagine you being that person you just described. You know that saying, you don't look like what you've been through?
Right.
Wow. There were some things that you highlighted I wanted to come back and talk about. One of them is the rage. We see that today. We see the road rage. We see the black on black crime. And I've always said when I see these things, that person has a lot of rage in them, unresolved issues. And I think you spoke to that so powerfully, that perhaps there's someone out there that has experienced or is experiencing that same rage. And then you connected it to, I'm using my own words, unresolved issues. Would you say that also a piece of that is a feeling of helplessness, that you can't fix it? Can you speak to that rage? Maybe unpack it a little bit for us, or not even necessarily your rage, but just rage in general from your experience to connect with our audience.
You know, when I think about rage, Dr. Starr, I think primarily about emotions that you can't necessarily put your finger on. And it's part of my narrative. And anytime that you have a narrative, and I had a narrative, but I couldn't put it all together. Do I blame my father? Do I blame my mother? Do I blame myself?
Wow.
And feeling unhappy with me because of my external circumstances, it brought about the rage. I didn't know how to process my stuff.
That is
and because
so
I
powerful.
couldn't process my stuff, you got my rage.
That is so powerful. So you can see where therapy is important. You can also see where support systems, having someone that you can process that anger and rage with. That is so beautiful. And I was just listening to your story, William, and I know we're going to get to that on the second half, so I don't want to jump the gun a little bit. But tell me, when you turn to those inappropriate behaviors, what were you trying to achieve?
You know, I can't say that I was rational or thinking. I was actually in the moment with other guys who were going through their own experiences emotionally. And that was our way of bonding together and a way of expressing ourselves to show our machismo, to show our being brothers together. But it was a way of relating, but also a way of identifying that if you can do that, I can do this over here as well. And so my communal support was those brothers that I was hanging around.
Okay, so then unconsciously, you were wanting to achieve community, support, and you said identification, to identify. And so I think that's what we see often, unconscious behaviors, that when we do things that are inappropriate, we're acting out because we want attention. Would you say that?
Absolutely.
And sometimes it's to feel needed or wanted or like you belong. And isn't that where gangs come in? They say that oftentimes people participate in gangs because they feel like they have a family, feel displaced maybe from their natural families.
It's a way of validating who you are. And you get validated by being in that group, by being with those individuals. And so I was validated.
So it sounds like the common need for people then is to have a sense of belonging. We say that, from an educational, intellectual standpoint, but sometimes we don't actually get it when it comes to people's behaviors. We label them. We label behaviors rather than understand why is this individual acting out, or why does this individual choose these behaviors? Why would someone want to be in a gang and murder people or do violent acts? And I've spoken to some gang members and they tell me even the initiation process is brutal. And you wonder, well, why? Why would you allow a group of people to beat you, to accept you into a group, to see if you can handle that? But the desperate need to feel like you're a part of a family, that is really a powerful need, isn't it?
It is. And I'll say too that my own narrative, people can connect with the rage, but they may not connect with me.
Wow, say that again.
Yeah, people can connect with the rage, the feeling, the intensity of that, but they may not connect with my narrative, my story, where my real pain is. To unpack that, to say, you've been going through some stuff and you're now acting out of that. And so people see all of the emotional rage around me, but they don't connect to me unless there's someone that really cares.
William, you've always been deep. You've always been deep. So sometimes you get a little too deep for me, and I have to kind of find my way here. That is so powerful. When we think about just day-to-day activities, and you run into people who overreact or snap at nothing or start yelling over small things that we consider small and insignificant. And again, we don't stop to reflect on what are they going through, what's going on in their lives. We're just looking at that behavior again and labeling them as difficult or angry, or whatever, crazy.
I was at it won't take a long time, but I was at a estate sale the other day, and there was this guy who came in and said, somebody's blocking the way. And so this brother made a comment, and he started yelling at him. And I thought there was going to be a fist fight. People, people, when you're in a group, people start looking at you. I didn't want to look at people. I just want to stay to myself. So after all of this, he was yelling, don't you say anything because I'm going to come at you. And I said, it's getting ready to go down. So when the dust settled, that brother came in and he looked at me, and I just looked at him and I smiled and I just kept on going. It's like, he's going through some stuff. Yeah.
People are carrying a lot of hurt.
That's right.
If we go back to your childhood, the hurt, would you say that you were hurting and disappointed?
I was
Can we say that?
Bleeding, yeah.
Emotionally bleeding.
Yeah.
Wow. Did anyone, and I just want to ask this quick question. Like I said, I don't want to go into too much of the second half, but did anybody come to you at that time to say, William, what's going on?
Yeah. So I'm so grateful for my mother.
Your mother? Well, we'll come back to that because don't want to go too fast, too quickly.
But I remember there was a teacher at the reformatory school who used to pull me aside and say, William, there's more to you than meets the eye.
Wow. Well, we're going to come back. We're going to take a break, and then we'll come right back, and you can share how you squeeze those lemons into lemonade. How does that sound?
Sounds good.
Don't go away. We'll be right back.
Dr. Starr, best-selling author of Golden Nuggets, Food for the Mind, Body, and Soul, is also a health and wellness speaker and consultant who provides motivational speaking, training conferences, and one-on-one coaching to improve the quality of life. She's passionate about helping people heal from the inside out. Dr. Starr provides creative and innovative self-care strategies that empower you to prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. Call or visit the Golden Nuggets website today. Feeling anxious? Perhaps you're dealing with a past trauma and don't know where to turn for help. Turn to Unlimited Possibilities. We provide a safe and caring space for individuals and families to help improve the quality of their lives. Whether you need help with spiritual matters, trauma, depression, and more, Unlimited Possibilities can help you overcome your situation with compassion, acceptance, respect, and empowerment. Unlimited Possibilities, where all things are possible if you believe. Call or visit our website today.
Welcome back to Golden Nuggets Health and Wellness Show. For those of you just tuning in, I'm Dr. Starr, and joining us is William H. Taylor III. We're going to just take a little moment to share some self-care strategies. So before our guest comes to share how he squeezed his lemons into lemonade, I'm just going to share some information with you about resilience. Resilience is the ability to cope and recover from setbacks. And with practice, anyone can become resilient. Isn't that good news? More than anything, resilience comes from mindset. By controlling how you think about a situation, you can control how you respond to the situation. So let me share with you 4 self-care strategies for building resilience. 1, focus on what you can control and accept the things you cannot control. 2, adopt a growth mindset. View hardships as opportunities for growth. Ask yourself this simple question: what can I learn from this? 3, seek support. You can gain new insights or ideas to manage things a lot better. And the last one, 4, face your fears. This builds confidence. Avoiding fears leaves the problem unresolved. Now that I've shared those nuggets with you, we're going to turn to our guest. And I'd like to know, William, what actions or strategies did you take to squeeze those lemons into lemonade?
Well, you know, Dr. Starr, one of the things that my mother used to say, she said, a wise man changes, a fool never changes. And she used to say it a lot.
Okay.
And I mean a lot. And then one day I woke up and I heard me say, your mother is calling you a fool.
Oh, wow. That's how you woke up to that.
I woke up finally because she could not enter into what was going on in my heart. And even though she tried to penetrate and she was a praying woman and she was praying, there were angels that came.
Wow.
And lifted me up at my deepest core and said, we believe in you. We trust you. You've got ability. You've got talent. You're wasting it. And I heard it. And sometimes you can hear things and brush it off.
Absolutely.
I was hearing it. And when I started to hear, it reverberated throughout my entire being. And so there was something going on the inside that said the course that you're on right now is not the course that you're going to continue on. And so there was a shift for me. You mentioned earlier about the mindset. There was a mindset shift for me where I was thinking that the trajectory that I was taking, no more. And so I began to recoup and literally look at myself. And when people said, you got ability, got talent, I started digging in with my education. I became this phenomenal bookworm. I read everything. It's almost like what Malcolm X went through, and I read his material. What he was going through, I started reading everything that I could get my hands on because I needed to transform this. And since my mind was already shaken up, I needed to transform my mind so that I could have and be a different kind of person and a different being of a human being. And so that was one strategy that helped me. And in listening, I began to become humble with those who wanted to reach out and help me. I didn't know it all. I can't project my anger on you and then keep you at a distance. I had to humble myself, listen to my narrative that was saying this is now different, be willing to open up and receive help and support and counsel and wisdom from others. And once I began to do that, it seemed like the floodgates opened up and I was receiving all this water of grace into my life in order to transform William. I believe that my mother had a vision of who I was going to become, and she wasn't going to allow anything to disrupt what she saw her son becoming. And with that vision that God had given to her, I finally latched on to it and said, yes, Mom.
Wow.
Yes, Mom.
Wow. What was your mom's reaction when you started changing right before her eyes?
Well, I remember one time I was coming out I was staying at my father's house at that time. I remember coming out of the house and my mother was driving down the street at the exact same time. And I remember her rolling down the window during that time, no push button. And she said, come home. I heard her.
Wow.
And I came home. And when I came home, literally, remember Dorothy, there's no place like home. I came home. And my life began to turn around. It was nothing but sheer joy and love in my mother's eyes when she saw me.
Wow.
I was the prodigal that was now returning back into her grace. Yeah.
What a beautiful story to have a mother who saw your future. Mm-hmm. She wasn't focusing on your exterior or your behavior. She was looking beyond that. Right. Isn't that beautiful?
That's right.
Oh my goodness. And then she spoke that over you. Mm-hmm. I think words are so powerful. And I think if anything, there are so many nuggets you're bringing today. So I don't want to dismiss any of the nuggets, but the one that is speaking to me loudly now is the importance of parents speaking positive words over their children, speaking their destiny, their future, instead of naming those behaviors that are going on. What if she had focused on what you were doing inappropriately? What if she had just spent a lot of time rehashing what you're doing wrong?
That's right.
And then labeling you based on what you're doing wrong. See, and that's the mistake that I think a lot of parents, caregivers make. They are naming the behavior and then defining who that person is based on behavior rather than seeing their future and speaking their future. I see greatness in you. I see leadership in you. That is so powerful, isn't it? And that's what I'm hearing you say. It was the words that she spoke. One day they became life, planted seeds, and then they began to grow. Isn't that powerful?
You know, when you take a stand for someone, you stand for them, not their limitations.
All right.
You take a stand for who they are and what they are. It's like we say that God sees us. Our parents can sometimes see us as well.
Sure.
And so my mother saw me who I would be.
Wow.
Even back then. And so the stand is what pulled me. It kept pulling me. A wise man changes, the fool never changes. A wise man changes, the fool never changes. And all of that just pulled me to the extent that I could see that I am somebody. And what I was going through doesn't define me. I now had to redefine who I am.
Wow.
Even though I knew I was made in the image and likeness of God, but now I had to be redefined in terms of how my mother saw me, and then now how I see myself at that trajectory. She could see me in the future. Once I got to that future, now I could see myself.
Wow. Well, I have one more question I want to ask you. And what is the one experience out of many that has shaped you to be the person you are today? That's probably tough, right?
Yeah, there's so
Just
many.
take a stab at it.
Yeah. So I would say that when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X, when I was in juvenile facilities, That
You
book
were in juvenile facility?
I sure was.
Reading the story of Malcolm
That's
X.
right. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And when I read that, and I realized that this man was transformed. And one of the habits that he had was to read. He got an education. He was taken out of darkness into the light.
Wow.
And I said, now if he can do that without any education, I can do the same thing. And so I began to do the same thing. I saw that one of the keys is that you got to get an education. You don't have to go to school, although school is important, but you need to get an education. You need to get personal transformation, not change, but transformation. And so I was on the journey of transformation. And so I just read constantly. I became this person that read. When people were sleeping, I was studying.
Wow.
When people were sleeping, I was studying because I wanted to get this thing. I felt that there was a deficit. I had given up so much of my life in my rage, and now I had to recover. And part of my recovery, my steps, is that I needed to get an education for myself so that I could have an impact now on others.
Beautiful. What are you doing with these lemons? You turned them into lemonade. So what are you doing with the lemonade today?
So today, I'll just tell you, I've been a chaplain in the hospital setting for a number of years, at Riley for 14 years, worked with children, have seen every kind of experience that a child can actually go through in that. And that has been transformative because they have taught me how to be childlike. Because everyone has a child. It might be locked down and in prison, but I try to find the children in adults, even today. I was the head maximum security prison chaplain back in Massachusetts. They used to call it Walpole. It's not called that today. But there I learned how to work with brothers who had similar stories or dissimilar stories, but how to work with guys who are incarcerated so that I can work with them. That was literally taking some of my experiences and helping to bring that into the context of the prison so that I can work with them. And I can't say that, no work to me, but God working through me. I had a great ministry there in the prison, working with guys and providing programs for them so that they can have another way to look at life rather than their old life. And I will tell you this, that even when I was there, some of the guys that I hung out with were actually in that same prison.
Really?
And they became, in many ways, my disciples.
Wow. Well, this has been an amazing story, and we appreciate you coming and sharing it. So many nuggets have come out of this, and the lemonade, wow, that you're being a blessing to these children, these babies at Raleigh Hospital and other hospitals as well, just serving people through that experience. So thank you so much. Our time is up. Wow, but it's been great. It's been wonderful. Thank you, William, for being our guest today. And we want to thank our audience for being with us as well. And remember, when life throws you lemons, make lemonade. Goodbye for now.
Feeling anxious? Perhaps you're dealing with a past trauma and don't know where to turn for help. Turn to Unlimited Possibilities. We provide a safe and caring space for individuals and families to help improve the quality of their lives. Whether you need help with spiritual matters, trauma, depression, and more, Unlimited Possibilities can help you overcome your situation with compassion, acceptance, respect, and empowerment. Unlimited Possibilities, where all things are possible if you believe. Call or visit our website today.